played last night. I invented 2 games. Board games, board games. It's what we're talking about. Board games, board games. I'm not gonna shout. I am starting off this streaming with a little bit of singing, and over here to this side of me is the person known as LolV. LolV is putting their hands under their chin, and they have a lovely grin. And LolV is dancing over there, and LolV has marvelous hair. But now let's get on topic. Now let's get on topic. We are going to talk about emotional safety, LolV, and me. Yeah, this is bedtime in some countries. I am Bez. We're blethering about board games. Hello, Xate. It is lovely to see you. I guess you saw a little bit of when I said, "Oh, I entered 2 games yesterday." And hello, Alan Oughton. It is lovely to see you. And we are chatting about safety in board games of LolV. And yeah, I want to spend just a couple of minutes introducing this topic right now, and then we'll get back into it after the regular opening features, if that makes sense. So, we talked 2 weeks ago about emotional and physical safety in LARPs because potentially someone could, be freaked out or be literally injured physically or harmed in whatever way. And then we talked about all the safety mechanisms that are introduced in role-playing games and LARPs that you know quite a bit about. And then today we're having more of a theoretical conversation. So this is not something that people have really talked about a lot in the past. And so we're not coming from a place of authority, but then no one is an authority really on this topic in the world of board games. So it's like we're just kind of trying to ponder about what could exist, what might exist, and yeah, what would be ideal? I don't know. Like, how different are board games and RPGs? And so, yeah, do you have anything to add to our introduction to the topic?
Not really. I'm happy with your synthesis.
Okay, great. Um, oh, lots of love there, Xate. And let's talk about brilliant things, brilliant things. What's a little thing which is brilliant? We never had a brilliant thing. Oh, I've got one. Can I go? Can I say our
Yes.
brilliant thing for today is going to be toilet paper? I mean, I know that, look, I know that there's a lot of places out there that you wash your bum after you've had a poo with like water. Maybe there's like a hose. Maybe you kind of have this little hose that you kind of point at your bum and then you wash all the poo off. And that's totally legitimate. But then we actually have the privilege of having a bidet where I live in London. And so, ideally, you wash it off, but then you still use a little bit of the toilet paper to just get it off. And the other thing that I like about toilet paper is that it's multifunctional because it's fairly cheap. And if you need some disposable plate paper, maybe you need some disposable paper to wipe off some things or to get rid of something, and it's this is disgusting, I don't want to touch it, but I want to put it in the bin. You can use toilet paper for it. It's multifunctional.
Yes. And actually, I was at the lab this weekend, and we realized mid-lab as organizers that we have forgot to buy enough toilet paper for the weekend. So we had to start an epic quest where we took the car to buy some more toilet paper in the middle of the lab, while the other organizer were still making sure the player were safe and having fun. So yeah, toilet paper is important.
Yeah, and so I think we can all agree that it's really a marvelous, brilliant thing. So let's move on to recent highlights. Recent highlights. Playing games and living our lives. Recent highlights.
Highlight.
So, recent highlights. I have played 2 games. Well, 3 games, let's say, yesterday. I played Hello Robot, which was a marvelous game that Xate introduced us to, where you're trying to get a robot to say particular things. And then, hey Alexa, what's his TMI? And so you might be trying to get Alexa to say the word information, for example. And then we've got certain keywords, like one of them was Hideo Kojima. And then I said, hey Alexa, who designed Metal Gear Solid? And then, of course, that was super easy if you knew who it was, and we got 2 points for that. So if you don't manage to get it correct, then the points increases until, okay, wow, if you manage to get it to say cameo, it's worth 5 points. No, 6, now 7. And then until like this is worth so much to until someone can get Alexa to say the magic word, and then the person who gets Alexa to say the magic words wins the whole game. And so it's got a lot of tension. It was really good fun, and lots of people playing along in chats, and 5 of us on the camera. It was so much fun. It was probably one of the best streaming experiences I've had. The other games that we played Nano Muckle, which is only 8 cards, and yeah, Alex won 2 out of the 3 games, and the third game, Alex joint won. So Alex was basically either first or joint first in every single game. So we've decided Alex is amazing. And I also was working on a game of Nano Muckle with 12 cards, which was good fun. Other than that, I've just enjoyed walking around, doing a wee bit of exercise, going up a hill, coming back down, and that's what I managed to do this morning. So yay! That is my recent highlights. What have been your recent highlights? And anyone in the chat, feel free to share what are your recent highlights.
I've been playing 2 games. One I don't remember the name, but it's a game for mostly children and young adults with pirates. Very interesting, very cool. And the second is the dark version of King of Tokyo, which I lost. But it was an interesting party, interesting campaign. I had a lot of fun. And my recent highlight are I had a very bad day yesterday.
Oh.
Very not the day wasn't bad, but I had bad event through it. But I was able to pull myself back together, and I went to a coffee shop and I had a very good butterfly pea latte with
But sorry,
butterfly
butterfly pea.
butterfly pea latte. It's impossible to explain. It does not involve butterfly. It's for real, but it's the name of the pea that is brewed together with spices and vegan milk, and it's very good. It's spicy. It's warm. It's like everything you need to get you heart mended together, and it was very good with a bit of a banana cake, and so I add that. Yeah, so
Wow.
it's blue. That's the thing. It's very blue. I had a bit of a banana cake with it, and I read my book in my. It's a Vietnamese coffee shop, so I really liked it also because of that. And after that, I go to the first station of my book club, and so this is my recent highlight. People
Oh.
were very welcoming, and we talked, and I felt genuine connection with these new people I just met. around the fact that we all love books. So it was very nice.
Yeah, sometimes having that sort of bringing together of people can be a marvelous thing. Just of a shared love of books or games or whatever it is, because it's not just about enjoying the thing, it's also about meeting other people who enjoy the thing with you and that sense of community. And hello, Chris, who says that the recent highlight is working from home, listening to music, and doing some work for me. And Wednesdays are fast becoming Chris's favourite days, which is lovely. Alan Outson says they've been watching ASMR videos this morning. I'd never heard of it before. It's huge. How is your whispering?
It depends.
Well, Cook started a book quote thing today on Twitter.
Yes, go on, Zaid.
Somewhere I had gained the impression that love makes one happy, but that was not true for me. Love only hurts me. It hurts away uncertainty and hopelessness. Did. Aww.
Is that from Great Expectation?
Apparently, LolV is way better at that than. Apparently, you're better at that than me. I'm apparently
Sorry.
scary in whisper form. No, you don't have to apologise. You should be proud that you're better at it. So well done. Anyway, so starting off. Oh, it's from No Promises in the Wind, a book
No,
Xate's
let me
read when 12.
note that.
So let's move on to the questionably quick
Question.
questions. Okay, what time did you wake up this morning?
A bit before 8 o'clock.
Hmm. What time is it now, and where exactly are you?
It's 10 minutes past 11 and I'm in Toulouse, South France, in my bedroom.
And have you had breakfast?
Yes.
What did you have?
Homemade banana pancake and a smoothie and some tea.
Now, while you were playing King of Tokyo Dark Edition, were you drinking or eating anything?
I was not this time.
Okay. What was the last thing you ate or drank whilst playing a board game?
Uh, we did a bad thing. We ate crisp
I
the
mean,
other
why
day
is that
while
bad?
playing the pirate game. But crisps are bad. They put like you can put like your crazy finger on the card. It's bad. Don't do that at home, children. It's a bad thing, okay?
And yeah, unless anyone else has any questionably quick questions within the next minutes or so, um, we will stop that and move on to the main topic. Let me remind everyone to feel free to comment, ask questions, whether it's quick questions right now or more pertinent questions later on. Thumb, like, follow, all that good stuff. Um, and I think we've got, yep, that's the end of the questionably quick questions. So now, what I wrote. Oh wait, we do have a couple of questions. Okay, I'll keep it going for another minute. Hello, Odin. It's lovely to see you. What do you think is the best game to play in quarantine?
I had a lot of fun playing Terraforming Mars during quarantine, the solo campaign,
Solo Terraforming
and
Mars. Wow.
my top
Oops,
three
sorry.
favorite books. I can never answer this question. Right now, my top three, because it's often changing, is the translation of Sappho's poetry, If Not Winter, which would be the first. Second would be Translove, an anthology of trans and transgender and non-binary voices. And the third would be Ain't I a Woman by Bell Hooks, which I'm reading right now, and it's really interesting. So this is like from the last 6 months of reading. I should have put maybe a Roald Dahl one in because I really really enjoyed Dahl's um, books, but I did not enjoy them as much as the last three I have read recently.
That's fair. Do you have a favorite book quote?
Um, I don't remember one right now. That is so sad. Um,
Oh, and
oh, I could quote Sappho though.
okay, go for it.
Um, what is the most beautiful thing on the dark earth? It is not an army on foot, nor an army on ship, nor an army on horse, but I say it is what you love.
Okay, and final question: what's in the mug? Is it tea?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and yeah, someone Odin can explain how Twitch works to you, um, but yeah, that's something that you need to earn the right for. um, but that's the end of our questionably quick questions. So we've learned a little bit about who LolV is, a book lover, a gamer, a writer, and yeah, so now what we are talking about is, yeah, I wrote this little section. Having talked about safety in LARP last week, now we're going to chat about how these concepts can be applied to board games. So the questions are like, has this been implemented in the past? Like, how has it been implemented? And how do we approach the topics of emotional safety? And like, what else could be developed? And yeah, just to remind people that we're not speaking from a place of authority. This is more of a chat under ponder because this is like something that is worth chatting about. So feel free to chime in with your own thoughts, with your own examples, because um, examples in the RPG and storytelling space are quite prevalent, but examples in the less story game side of the spectrum are a lot less prevalent. And that's something that we all need to talk about. Um, so, yeah, let's start off by doing a quick, let's define what we're talking about. So, I thought that RPGs and LARPs, so stuff like Fiasco, even though it's a very light RPG, I'm still going to call it an RPG. Would you agree?
Indeed.
And it you've got stuff where you're telling a story between yourselves, and when it's I'm more. I mean, whether it's a board game or a storytelling game is a really blurry line because, in one sense, you've got Once Upon a Time or even Rory's Story Cubes, which have very much, or Fable, which Fable you would think of as a storytelling game, and it is, but still, people are going to come to it from the board game space rather than the RPG space. So but it does also strike me that in any game where people aren't assuming characters and telling the stories, I don't know of even any safety mechanisms in storytelling games. And so let's say that we're talking about any games that involve, sitting around a table or physical pieces potentially in this day and age, communicating through virtual mediums or whatever, which is not about assuming the identity of a character. Are you happy with that definition of board game for today?
Yes.
Okay. And Now, what do we mean by safety? Last time we chatted, we talked about making sure that people are healthy and not going to be harmed emotionally or physically during the course of this game. Do you have anything
Yes.
to add to that?
For me, safety is also feeling safe enough, feeling uh, protected enough to be brave and seize opportunity to play. So to
Yeah,
try new thing, feeling comfortable enough to try new thing to get out of your comfort zone, for example.
and yeah, that's the thing. Like, you need to be comfortable for sure, and you. I mean, ultimately, games are about facilitating a certain experience, and I mentioned this on a few different Facebook groups, and there's some bits that I think raised very interesting points. And someone said, okay, what about, yeah, like you go into a horror film, you know that you're going to be scared, but still within that film, like there's many different ways that horror films could go, if you know what I mean. So you might end up thinking, okay, is this a B movie like a Monster of the Week? Is it going to be like I saw this film called The Wishmaster. Have you heard of this? It's about a genie who grants these wishes, but they are an evil genie. So they grant your wishes like the traditional monkey's paw situation where it grants the wish in the worst possible way for you. And then in the end, massive spoiler alert. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers, mute this for about 30 seconds. This is a terrible movie from about 30 years ago. But basically, the last in the end, they win and they manage to beat the genie. They say, "Oh, I wish for my final wish, I wish I'd never found you." And I was like, "Oh no!" And then it's all reverted. And then, so that was like their way of overcoming the evil genies. Like the first two wishes are so terrible, but it's more of a schlock horror. Do you know what I mean? Like you see these monsters coming at them, and it's not meant to be like you're genuinely traumatized. But there's a different type of horror where it's insidious, like modern psychological. Sorry, horror can be very different, and so you need to know what you're getting into. Um, So, why is safety important?
Because when you feel harmed or uncomfortable or threatened while doing something, it can ruin all the good that this thing can bring into your life. So having safety, for example, in board game can make people stay in the board game community, for example. But it's just good because we don't not want to harm people. So how can it be good? It can be good because it also offer to people opportunity to play games that they would not play otherwise, because they would say, oh, this game is far too complicated for me, or there is so much competition, I will never be able to, or I can't even, and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because sometimes there can even be a level of the competition gets a little bit toxic. I mean, if you don't mind, yeah, so let's bring up the example of certain CCGs, collectible card games, when something gets into lifestyle mode. Oh, and sorry about that. Hello, Alex. It is lovely to see you today. And yeah, we I think with Magic, not just with Magic the Gathering, it's not unique to Magic the Gathering. It's unique to any game, I think, where you're spending money in order to get an advantage in the game. And then you have this big ego investment in your cards. And there's something almost problematic about this. I would argue that even the business model of the game is arguably going to encourage bad behavior. I haven't thought about this, but so I'm not willing to commit to this belief in a year's time, but it's certainly what I believe right now, if you know what I mean. That compare it to Dominion, where the beauty of Dominion is that you get the game, you share it with people, and then you have your own thing. With a game where, okay, this is my deck, oh, that's your deck, but hey, sure, you let other people come in, and there can be wonderful people in the community. Don't get me wrong, people who say, oh, I want you to come in here, have this deck I made for you, have this deck, and here's a deck of your favorite color, or here's a deck of your favorite type of animal in the game, or whatever, and because I want you to join, I'm giving you, and people want them to join this game. But whereas something like Keyforge, it's got a mechanism for balancing it. If you're like, okay, this deck is clearly better, then you've got a handicap mechanism. Go, it's all about that handicap mechanism. Go is all about fostering that good community. Whereas something where it's a CCG, I guess it can be a little bit toxic in terms of the competition, and you can get cheats. And the question then becomes, someone else mentioned code of conduct. Code of conduct at competition, code of conduct is a term like, okay, if this is a problematic individual, can we warn them? Can we ban them? Can we say, okay, you're not allowed in this situation anymore? And people have been banned from Magic the Gathering for doing unsportsmanlike behavior, where there may be, you know, not just cheating, but people have been downright xenophobic in this game. And the fact that there are some measures in place to say, hey, that's not cool, you're going to be removed from professional play, I think that is a good thing.
Yes, because our hobbies are not inherently safe space because we do not come from a safe culture. So even if we love, for example, Magic the Gathering, and I love Magic the Gathering, when I come into a space of people playing Magic the Gathering, I expect to find the exact same oppression I face in real life. And I've often faced sexism while I was playing because I was visibly seen, or I was visibly all seen as a woman. So sexism. Then people being like, yeah,
Hmm.
she must not be a good player, or she's there with a boyfriend, so that mean he's actually the one in charge of the team, stuff like that.
Yeah.
While anyway, so safety is also making sure this kind of behavior are recognize, acknowledge, and deal with
Hmm.
in several different ways, which can be banning people or just saying, hey, this is not okay. We have stated in the code of conduct that all players are equal and you do not treat them differently. So stop being a jerk to that person because of, I don't know, gender, color of skin, wealth per se or real, and stuff like that. And I keep on slapping my poor microphone every time because I can help making
Although it's
gesture
good,
with
you're
my hands.
getting
I'm
emotionally
getting
charged because
into
it's an emotional topic, and sometimes I've heard stories, whether it's Xate or whether it's Jess. I can't remember their screening, Jessica or something, but Jess, and Xate are both, okay, you talk down to me, well, I'm going to wipe the table with you, because Xate and Jess who likes dinosaurs on Twitter, and works for, um, anyway, so these things are, yeah, you shouldn't have to do this. It shouldn't be a case of, well, I need to prove myself, even though it is cathartic. And one guy at UK Games Expo was so upset that Xate beat them at Wingspan, having messed off the rules, that the guy wouldn't even speak to Xate after the game. And that guy was in their 50s. That's, yeah, ridiculous. And so, yeah. And Odin makes the point, anytime you're in Yep, we already said that. Um, what's interesting is that you can sign the social contract to experience certain things, and the game can still be unsafe in ways you might not expect, or even the players can make it unsafe. And I think we've talked about safety from the players, from each other, but also safety from the game. Now, I should point out that in a LARP or an RPG, there is a power dynamic between the GM and the players. With yeah, sure, there's GM-less RPGs like Fiasco, for example, but for the most part, the games master can spring things. They're sometimes called a storyteller, the person who's okay, whatever I say is true within the story. And so if I suddenly said, okay, yeah, again, I don't want to say certain things because, there are things that if I say them, then that's your reality in this game, and I could, as the GM, force you to explore these topics that you might be very uncomfortable with, things that do deal with abuse or racism or whatever, and even historical atrocities. But then, in a game, you might. Sorry, I'm laughing at Xate and Chris having a conversation about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So, yeah, so just so you know, this is also where it gets into trust, isn't it? Because I think that yeah, have we have like yeah, a level of trust between these people. I mean, whether you're comfortable with your sexuality, whether you're comfortable with whatever, and both people have to be continually expressing consent, if you know what I mean. And if at some
Yes.
point one of them was like, you know what, I'm uncomfortable with this, and then it might be like, okay, yeah, that's not cool, let's stop. But the point is that I mean, you have taken your shirts off at some point. Yeah, like we can check out your Instagram. Come on, Chris. I'm not blaming you. You've got a good body. I mean, well done. But the
Yeah.
point is that, and like this, the way that the show goes. Thank you. Okay, get that stuff done. Come on, Chris, you can do it. So the point is that safety is all about things can change. You can be surprised by how players react. You can be surprised by what content comes out of the game. There might be 100 cards, and then you might say, "Oh wow, this card has um, parrots, and I am intensely afraid of parrots." For example, maybe someone has an irrational fear, but they just do not want to have parrots. In which case, what is the magic circle? What is the protocol to say, hey, I don't want to can we just skip this cards? Maybe that's all that's needed. Maybe we don't need a formal thing of that, but let's just acknowledge that these surprises can and do happen. At the same time, other people do inject stuff. For example, maybe you aren't given the full information at the time. Is the last point, like maybe you aren't told that, hey, this game actually involves a lot of swearing and these particular themes. Maybe you don't realize that, hey, this game in these mechanisms, this is going to involve a lot of backstabbery and people being mean to each other. And in diplomacy or seize the power, it's going to be about making an arrangement and then betraying you. And maybe you need to be reminded that, hey, what happens in the game is separate to what happens in reality. And so you need to be kept aware of that um, difference. And yeah, so there are surprises that can happen. Um, Sorry, do you have anything to say in response, or?
No, maybe, yes, maybe. Also, sometimes we can just be very frustrated by a game, and the fact that we lose or win inflict an equal response on our self-worth and the way we perceive ourselves. Because wishing it or not, we put a lot of energy in ourselves when we play a game. So this is also something that we should take into consideration when we play with someone. Like maybe try not to brag when you wipe them after 2 turns of this very difficult games that they play for the first time or stuff like that. Maybe just building a culture where new player can safely engage in new game or medium with or media without feeling like, hey, you are useless because you cannot play this game right away or you don't understand all the rules. If we keep on building on our example of Magic the Gathering, I have played competition of Magic and still I don't know all the rules of Magic because there are so many tiny exceptions and this is such a great game with long history, and this can be so frustrating when sometimes you play as usual and you get blocked in your strategy by just the tiny exceptions that apply there, you know?
Hmm.
And in that those moments of frustration when you feel so impaired of having fun, it helps not to have an older player or more experienced player being like, well, of course you should have known. This is such a simple rule. Yes, but I'm a new, so I need you to be careful with me. Maybe just
Yeah, and
kind.
there's a difference between, yeah, just because you don't understand something doesn't mean that you're stupid or an idiot. It might be just that you were, yeah, you're new and you don't know all these rules, that people have been playing it for years and have just assumed for whatever reason that all these things are massive proof, are just natural. And I think what we do have to have, the more I think about it, um, yeah, there we go. Like sometimes, but when something becomes a lifestyle game, especially with a CCG, with chess, you're going to be putting that into your mind every waking day. If you play Buddy Fight or Versus or Pokemon or Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh or whatever it is that you play with these games that encourage you to spend money, buy the game, play the game, play the game, learn the meta, learn everything that's to do with these cards, then it pushes you down a very certain environment. And that's one nice thing about Keyforge. I mean, I've not played that much Keyforge, but the thing is that at least when I come to it, um, yeah. And we've got Seitsu says, I'm genuinely worried about playing Seize the Bean on stream for Quality Beast. They have developed a game and I haven't played yet. I know I am a strong player, but I feel I will look stupid compared to the guys. And I don't want to be the girl that's not getting it on stream. And that's the thing that because these are people who've been working on it for years, working on the game, and so they will know everything. And so when you're coming from a position where people are already saying, oh, well, you look pretty, so you're just a pretty little girl, don't worry your head about this. And, it's that kind of, I'm trying not to swear. It's that kind of ridiculous sexism that you, yeah, it when you are getting it, and then you have to fight extra hard to subvert it, to go against it, because otherwise you worry about being yet another part of that trope, if you know what I mean, which is quite sad because maybe someone is genuinely, not everyone can be amazing at games. Maybe someone's not the best at games, but they do want to have fun. But then they worry that by playing games, then they're, just worry. playing into the stereotypes. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Um, so I do want to, I guess, talk about this for literally like a couple of minutes. Um, can it be bad? Safety measures, like they use up time. You need to learn some rules for the safety mechanisms if you're actually having formalized safety mechanisms. But yeah, are those bad things? When can it be bad?
I think a lot of people will feel that integrating safety into board game or integrating safety in general will deprive them of a certain ambience of the competitive way will because one of the safety rule is adapt to the person asking something. So if someone say, hey, I want to play with less intensity and less competition, you adapt to that instead of to the player who will wish a more competitive kind of game. And this means that some people will feel deprived of the joy of their way to play. Not
Hmm.
always, but we need to acknowledge those feelings too of the feelings that some people will have regarding the fact that hey, this is not your narrative that will be in the center, and you might need to adapt, and you are maybe you are not used to have to adapt on things.
I think the key point to remind people of is that thinking about these things doesn't mean that we have to, yeah, not do stuff. If anything, if people are comfortable saying, hey, this is not okay with me, then it might be that other you say okay by that logic like other stuff is okay, and then by having that communication, I mean all these safety mechanisms ultimately all they are at the end of the day is a way of communicating. It's not a way of saying don't do this, don't do that. It's a way of allowing one person to say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this. And if someone really wants to have X and someone really doesn't want to have X, then they should play two different games, and maybe that's okay. I mean, and so it doesn't mean that you're a bad person for wanting to do something that someone else doesn't want. It just means that if you really want to have that person at your table, don't do it. And if you've already said, okay, I'm going to cater for this person, like if you're the host, then maybe you know, host for them or make sure there's something else for them to do, even if it's as much as, Donald Dennis has host of On Board Games says that, there's particular games that they will just say, yeah, I'm not going to play this, but I'm going to have a drink and I'll just sit beside you. You guys enjoy it. And that's a really nice attitude in that Donald Dennis isn't going to take away from anyone else's fun. It's not like, oh, well, if you want to play this, no, you should play something different. That's again not what it's all about. And I don't know how to make that any clearer to people. Um, and
I
yeah.
think you can make it clearer by just saying sometimes there is certain game styles that don't add up just like water and oil. You can't mix
Hmm.
them up. So maybe sometimes it's easier to have two table on the same game than to mix certain play style. I love Magic, and for example, I love my best friend, but it's so competitive, I know. And we have said before, I don't want to play Magic with him because he will wipe me in like 3 turns. I will not understand. This will frustrate me. I will not learn something. And for me to not learn something during a game is like the saddest thing ever. So sometimes you can mix style and it's okay. But you can always find people who are willing to adapt or people who are willing to learn differently.
Now, Hello, Cheap Sheep Games. It is lovely to see you here with us. Thank you for watching and commenting along. And they ask, as a player introducing someone new to a game, wouldn't you try to make their experience become as good, safe as possible to get them to come back? And yeah, I mean, this is a rhetorical question, I'm assuming, but yes, this is something to all those people who don't even want to have this discussion. I think that we're not going to have a debate or anything here, but yeah, I don't feel the need to reply to this. Do you feel the need to reply?
No, I feel that this is the thing that I said at the beginning as an introduction, that why do we need safety? If we don't have safety, people may not have a good, safe experience, and they may leave community or feel that board games are not a good thing.
And
Yeah, I could totally give 10 example of time where I felt I didn't belong in the gamer community, whether video game, board game, or tabletop or RPG, because I was born, well, I assassinated woman at birth.
yeah, I think maybe I'm not going to flash these up because otherwise my messages might pop up and I don't want to show that. But I'm going to talk about some of the comments that we got on Facebook. So firstly, Amy Bio, who made Flatter Me. Do you
You
know this
mute
game?
yourself. No, you have mute yourself. You
I
have
just
mute
wanted
yourself.
to show this thing. So Flatter Me is a game all about complimenting people, and it's a competitive compliments game, which is a really weird space. So you're trying to be complimenting each other as this thing. So it's very different to what a normal board game is. Um, I'm just going to play this video and oh, there we go.
I just want it.
Let me and yeah, it's all about yeah, I've actually backed this game. Oh yeah, you can see that I backed this for $20. And oh yeah, we had a chat about, so that's Amy Bio. Sorry, I'll pop you up there, LolV, so people can see you. So Xate, going backwards, Xate says, yeah, especially at events, people aren't always comfortable with, people can be a bit xenophobic, basically, where they aren't friends wanting to play in the future with you. They just want to prove how great they are and move on. Odin says, yeah, this is a great premise for a game. Can we do a round maybe on a Tuesday? I don't know if that will work because I think you need your own cards, but it's definitely something that when I get my copy, I'll think about whether it can work online. But yeah, it's this game about yeah, flattering each other, and then Amy was writing on Facebook that as they played the game, they noticed more and more that people were taking time to really not only do it at a superficial level, but also really get into the compliments. And that is what the game is trying to start to evoke, because every game, the dynamics are going to be different to the written rules, which is why I'm frankly, yeah, I okay, so I keep getting into this notion of being able to judge a game by its instructions. Yes, you can judge a game by its instructions. You can judge a game by its sell sheet. It's something that a lot of publishers do every day. A lot of publishers like you know what I'm saying? Like lots of publishers say, "Hey, which do we want to publish this game?" No, we aren't even going to look at it a lot more. That's based on the sell sheet. Okay, this thing. Are we able to? Let's look at the rules. Okay, we don't want to play it. Rado looked at my rules for Wibble and said, "You know what? I'd rather not review this game." And that's fine. We've all got limited time, and at a certain point, we become experienced enough that we can do that. But the dynamics that foster can be not just within the rules of the game, but within the people playing. And what Amy said to read, now that I've taken down the screen and I can look up Facebook, to read Amy's words exactly. I aim to hold space for emotions in Flatter Me, or at least I truly tried to design that game this way. And Amy also mentions the other way. They say people naturally slow down and sincerely think about the compliments they are giving and the compliments they are receiving. In both cases, acting authentically with their emotions during gameplay. During playtesting, I cried on more than one occasion because it was so sweet and moving to witness. In You Think You Know Me, the more you listen, instead of it jumping to the assumptions you may already have about someone, the better you'll do in the game. Like the more stories or sharing you do, the more comfortable it makes other people feel to do the same. Hope that makes sense. That is what Amy said.
Yes, it felt like a game. A game. Is what pronoun is Amy using?
I don't know, India. I can't find on reply to her own comments. Okay, so yeah, I guess it's Amy recognizes themselves as a she.
Okay, I use she/her pronouns, and it seems that a game are building a safe environment, like the game is itself implementing a safety culture around the player, like building a culture more than safety mechanism. It's actually building a culture of safety and care, and this is very interesting because we all are talking about safety and building community and building safety inside of community. Yet we don't know how to do it and how does the magic happen. So this is very interesting that during a game, this magic circle is built by the player during the game and not before. I'm sorry, this is not really helping the whole conversation, but I just find it so interesting.
No, no, it's all very good. And I do. Hello, Jess. I hope you're doing well. We were talking about a totally different Jess. I think it's Jess Davies, who likes dinosaurs. I don't know the other Jess, but maybe you do know the other Jess. But I'm just going to. This is kind of flattery, and sorry, this completely covers our face. But Chris says, I think this is why I'm now so into board games, because Bez has always housed a lovely environment for playing games without fear or judgment. I think I would have struggled otherwise finding my love for board games if everything was more competitive and I'm better at this than you. I think there should always be a space for people who have that opportunity to play without problems, but I know it's easier said than done. And I think this goes into, if you look at the demographics, Mark Rosewater has done brilliant work, head designer of Magic. Timmy, Spike, Johnny, Jenny's demographics. So if Spikes want to play together and be like, okay, we're battling to win and we are going to play, but it's still also, where do you have limits? Do you ever hold back at all? Like if you know that you're going to thrash someone, do you start taking a little bit time over your turn? Or, a little bit less time over your turn? Or do you still potentially take 2 minutes over your turn because you want to eke out every possible victory that you can over those people? Because sometimes if two people are playing at a tournament level and they want to eke out every potential chance to win, to make sure now, instead of having 99.9% chance to win, they have 100% chance to win, that's fair within that environment when both people have consented. And I think it keeps coming back to this notion of communication and consent. and being able to withdraw that consent. I mean, I was um, I was disappointed to hear it implied that consent doesn't need to be something that can be withdrawn. And if someone is watching this thinking, hey, once you've agreed to play something, you need to play it until the bitter end, because there are quite a few people who are like, well, once you've played a board game, you need to stick with it until the end. Um, is there any mechanism? Is there any social dynamic that, like, when is it okay to stop playing a board game?
Well, I think when one person is feeling upset or frustrated, they shouldn't force themselves in finishing the game. And I am the kind of person that I've said several times, hey, I don't feel like finishing the game right now because this is making me upset, or I can feel myself getting angry, and I don't want to bring negativity into our game. So sometimes it was not even that I was losing the game. Sometimes I was winning, but I could feel myself getting so worked up by it that this wasn't why I was playing anymore. I I don't know, but I think if someone is feeling upset or frustrated, angry, isolated, they should, if this is a solution for them, stop or take a break. They can always get back into the game. And I think you're right when you said consent in game, like in everything in life, should be and can be withdrawn when someone wants to stop.
Hmm.
I do not want to play anymore. It's okay. This is not the end of your life.
I mean, to a degree, it's all about we're meant to be having this positive experience together. And if someone is having a negative experience, I mean, I guess this moves us into the notion of the door is always open. And just to say, I've linked to the Kickstarter because I don't know if you want to buy Flats or Me, then you'll have to follow the Kickstarter and get in touch with Amy ourselves. Amy made a comment when I was talking about this on Facebook. So yeah, this notion of wanting to stop, it is exactly the door is always open mechanism. And but if a game requires, let's say, um, three people to work, I mean, or let's say it requires an even number, whatever, and by you going, you are removing the opportunity for anyone else to play the game. I mean, how does it work in RPGs or LARPs at that point? You've got to make a personal choice between your personal um, comfort levels and the desire for the other people to enjoy the game that they might already be enjoying. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Do you have? There aren't any simple solutions to this, are there?
No.
Um,
In my case, I have tried to, most of the time, design, in my case, LARP game, making sure that no character is absolutely necessary for the good running of the game. Like, if someone needs to take a break, they can always do it, and the game will still run smoothly. But this is not the same thing with a board game. And as you said, there is not simple solution. But as we stated before, safety mechanism has to be built after the rest of the game to be implemented well into it. So maybe there are solutions. There is not one solution that will be perfect for every kind of game and public and community, but maybe there is different set of solutions that we can integrate for different side.
Yeah, it feels to me like this is something that we can and possibly should think about as a designer of board games, because we should think about how can we make this um, player count flexible. So, for example, I just want to talk about physical safety, like in yogi. I mean, I know that this is a ridiculous example, but genuinely, I saw so many people back before it was called yogi playing the game, and then they would say, "Oh my god, I'm in so much pain. Okay, I'm going to try and do another card," and I would be standing there, and I'd have to remind them, "Hey, if you want, you are allowed to stop whenever you want. It won't stop anyone else having fun." And they're like, "No, I really want to do this," but they were in genuine physical pain. And so, yeah, it's you can potentially coerce people into doing. I saw that and was like, it's that kind of escalator system. Like people, okay, I've done this one. Okay, well, I'll do the next card. Okay, I'll do the next card. And it's that ramping up effect where because people have done one thing, um, yeah, then they're more likely to do the next thing. But it is the situation where people have done terrible things just because of this system of easing them in to it. And but yeah, and
Oh,
sometimes people just want to do things even though it hurts them because they get more enjoyment. But that's a decision that you make at the time. What you shouldn't do is being like, okay, I'm doing this, I've done it a little bit. At some point, you should be like, okay, I'm going to stop. Um, and so with I having seen people get themselves into physical pain with yogi, I've realized that a board game can 100% lead people to do um, things they would not have wanted to do if you'd asked them at the start of the game, if you know what I mean. So I think that people can absolutely 100% be coerced into doing things that they were originally uncomfortable with. And so
yeah.
what I'm going to posit is that in this situation, it feels like the designer has an absolute responsibility to not only broadcast what the game is about, but maybe the analog for the door is always open is to make sure that the game survives with that. Because in Yogi, sure, if someone not is knocked out, well, that's the nature of the game. In Yogi Stock Guru, well, it's the nature of the game, but maybe is it still okay because some people are like really cheering you on? Does it get into too much coercion? I don't know. But then in these things, like if someone wanted to leave from a game of Terra Mystica, well, it would probably be okay if they were genuinely having trouble. If it was like, oh my god, you know what? I don't think the game of Terra Mystica itself is problematic for most people, but you might have a situation where it's like, oh my god,
Yeah.
my baby's having this problem. I need to go and take care of them. There's an emergency. The babysitter's rung me, and I need to go back. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think the door is always open is like a very good measure. But we can use other things like such as calibrating, just saying, hey, I like the game and I want to still play, but I feel uncomfortable right now. Can we just take a break? Can we just calibrate together just
Hmm.
to can we lessen the intensity? Can we say, I know you want to win and you will probably, but for the next turn, can you just give me a break so I can regain some confidence and some other thing? I don't remember the word in English anymore. What is language? Composture.
Um,
Composture. Can you like give me some times during the game, like for the next turn, sometimes to regain composure and confidence? So I
Composure,
will
yes.
still lose, but I will learn something. I think we can still calibrate stuff without the necessity of leaving, but in any case, having a door open is still very, very much necessary, very much a good thing. Thank you for talking about designing with that in mind.
No, thank you for being part of this conversation. Jess comes from both a board gaming and RP background, says it's tough to leave the table, but it usually gives everyone a better experience. If someone that's not having a good time politely leaves, it can be more difficult to play with someone who doesn't want to be there or is uncomfortable. We had other comments. Alex said when I talked about how much do you beat someone out. Look, I'm not going to play down to someone. I'm not going to make a move that I can see is clearly terrible. But what I might do is I might not spend 30 seconds thinking about my move, depending on the game. Like if I'm playing about Xate, you know, of course I'm going to spend like a minute. If it's like, okay, Xate, I know you're pretty good at Scythe, you know, give me a minute. So I'm going to try and work out so I stand a chance of even being in the same ballpark as you. And I don't know if Xate would like play faster because, you know, I'm not very good at Scythe. Because, you know, I play games, but I've only played it once. Do you know what I mean? And but it's about maybe playing a little bit faster, so you don't give yourself as much time to think. If I'm like, okay, I'm already beating everyone, I'm going to start playing by instinct. I might say, hey, would you like me to give you any tips? And, you know, if they say, yeah, sure, give me some tips, then I'll give them whatever tips. And Xate says, yeah, beat me, thrash me, destroy me when teaching. That's okay. Next game, I'm coming for you. Also, I usually win game one anyway. And, yeah, I don't know what this is about. Yeah. Chris says you're very on point, and Odin says, sometimes I think we forget that games are supposed to be fun. If you're not having fun, that can be an issue. If you're feeling safe, I do not think you have an obligation to continue the game.
Yes.
Yeah, so what with the should we talk about Gilhova's check-in cards right now?
I think this could be a good conclusion to talk about what is already done. Like, hey, we talk about safety, but what is actually done in the community to make game more safe?
Okay, so if you look here, check-in cards, the idea is that it's something. Hey, I'm just going to copy paste this link to literally everywhere. So you will see this in Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. Oh, I had the excessively long link, but it should still work. So yeah, the idea is that you pick up one of these cards to first say, hey, this is how much energy I have. And hey, this is how much intensity I want to play at. So if I was like, yeah, I have lots of energy, or if it's maybe like, okay, it's 2 a.m. at the convention, yeah, I've got like very low energy, but maybe I could play a game, but maybe people realize, okay, it's possible that if this is going on super long, then Bez might have to go out halfway through but other people maybe at 2 a.m. they have full energy. I don't know if you can see these little cards. You can see like maybe I can click on them to make them. Yeah, maybe you can see that better. So these are it's literally just you show these cards firstly to show how much energy you have, secondly to show how much intensity you want to play with. So do you just want to play frivolously and do nothing? Do you want to play, okay, I'm coming for you, I'm gunning for you, or is it somewhere in the middle? And you can sort of yeah, it is absurd game time, but that is a time when some people start. No, I completely disagree. For me, that's the ideal time to play Jungle Speed, because I might have some energy, but low intensity. I would be like a 1 on the intensity scale at 2 a.m. I'd be like, yeah, I'm just playing this game to do whatever, to see what happens, to share some time with friends, but maybe I still have some energy. Everyone's different, and that's why these cards are a way to communicate with each other. Does that make sense? Should I read Gilhova's? Should I summarize it? Um, so here's how it works. Um, Everyone rotates their cards, so energy half is on top, and then everyone plays a card that indicates how much energy they're feeling. If anyone plays a low energy card, check in with them, see if they're okay. They might need a break or a snack. If everyone's energy levels are okay, then play it, rotates it to the intensity side. And an intensity level of 1 means you don't care if you win, like a party game, or that you don't want the game to be emotionally impactful. Intensity level 4 means you're very invested, like it's a tournament, or that you want the feelings from the game to linger long. If there's differences, and that's the key, that it's okay if everyone's low energy, or if everyone's high energy, or if everyone's low intensity, or if everyone's high intensity, but if there's any differences of 2 or more, that's kind of a rule of thumb. If there's a big difference, then all agree to an intensity level that everyone is okay playing with. And this is just a way to communicate. Some players may need to get slightly more invested in the game. So maybe I go over to Xate's place, and then I'm like, okay, we're going to play this game, but I don't really care who wins. And Xate says, hey, hey, come on, Bez, I want you to bring your A game. And then at which points I'm like, okay, Xate, I will work slightly harder for this game. I'll try to work harder, or maybe Xate needs to drop it down. We need to find some compromise. And Guild did this for RPGs and board games. Don't use it for every game. It's to formalize a check-in procedure before playing something and to get into the habit of getting in touch with yourself as well as others. Socialize the idea that not everyone wants to play the game in the same way. Let people know that it's okay to agree on a play style before starting. And playing a card is much easier than breaking the flow of a game night by saying you're tired or hungry, especially in a new group. And the idea is that something like this, when you've got these tools, it's like, hey, everyone, can we check in energy levels? If you just say, okay, let's agree energy levels, and everyone's like, okay, this is how much energy we have. And maybe that's like a quick thing that we could even do with our fingers and then check intensity levels. But some people, by having something that is actually printed, they think, okay, now we're actually going to play this game, if you know what I mean. Now we're actually going to do this thing. And yeah, we've got some stuff about it that you can read on the link that I gave you. Oh, and yeah, the robots game we played earlier, Hey Robot, that would be like a great game for 2 a.m. Hey Dylan has played some amazing negotiation games at 2 a.m. at cons, but again, that negotiation, because that can suffer bleed. And even though bleed is a concept for role-playing games, I think we need to talk about bleed for board games. So yeah, maybe we can talk about that, why you didn't like it, and we can have a conversation. But can we have a can we have a quick conversation about bleed in board games, LolV? Like, and anyone in
Yes.
chat, have you ever felt, whoa, that just happened, and then you felt a twinge of disappointment? Because I felt it during coup when someone lied to me, not about what the rule was, but they said, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to do this thing. And then next round they didn't do the thing. And they said, yeah, it's a game all about lying. And so that was okay. But we had that misunderstanding about what is okay within the rules of the game. Do you know what I mean? And so for them, this is within the magic circle. For me, it's, yeah, I can see that. I was just shocked and surprised.
Yeah, for me it has happened before. Mostly in game I didn't mastered yet. It was like first or second time I played them, and I felt very betrayed when I saw other player using some tricky rule to put me in a dire situation.
Hmm.
And I could feel that it was very, very heavy on my own feeling and on my self-worth at the moment. That the feeling of me playing, the my players' feeling were actually bleeding into LolV's regular feeling. Like I felt down because of the game during a long time. So there was like some kind of bleed. Then my player persona inflicts some damage to my regular persona of someone who sometimes play game. If that
Yeah,
makes sense.
it makes perfect sense. Um, Odin says there are games that they will not play because of the high chance of bleed for them. And so, yeah, for sure, if you've got to think about would you play diplomacy? Would you play seize the power? And when you play these kinds of things, you have to be aware that people are going to be mean to you, and you have to come to it with the understanding of, okay, I am going to be mean to you in this game. I'm going to lie to you during this game, and yeah, after it, um, we're still going to be friends, hopefully. And that is something that can't always happen. Sometimes we might need a little bit of space. Sometimes we might need to back off. Sometimes we might need to have a little, okay, time out from this game. I need to genuinely, to be fair, so there's all sorts of stuff with role playing games. We have the notion of establishing clearly what we want to play as, um, and the whole yeah, we talks about stuff for before, after, and during. Um, like before is establishing what's going on, but we don't really have much of that in the board game space, other than, hey, would you like to play this game? Okay, what kind of game is it? And then someone explains it to you, and you might say at that point, oh, it doesn't sound for me at this point, and that's enough. But it's still something very tenuous that there's no formalization of that. Does there need to be formalization of this process, do you think? That's the key question.
Yeah, I'm a strong advocate for transparency. I think safety work better when say, "Hey, I'm trying to establish safety here," because otherwise people might feel like you have manipulated them into coming to certain conclusion or by putting them into certain situation. So I always like to say, hey, I just for a check, I would like to implement a safety mechanism, and this is and transparency allow you to explain everything, and that includes your goal and your intention and your vision. Like I want to do that because I think it can achieve, for example, being comfortable enough to get out of your zone, feeling safe uh, to play it a little more dangerously, a little bit more edgy, stuff like that.
I mean, so Xate mentioned that with Gilhova's cards, check-in cards, Xate felt put on the spot by them more than by just learning the game. And so maybe Xate felt like they were potentially worried about. I don't want to talk too much for you. Obviously, you have to, Xate, if I'm misrepresenting you, let me know. But maybe Xate felt like they don't want to necessarily take the time or effort to say how are they feeling and what energy level they have. Maybe they don't want to be judged for having a low energy, and maybe they feel like this is some sort of test, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for not paraphrasing Xate, but in my case, when people ask me to acknowledge my level of energy and intensity it forced me to acknowledge sometimes things that are not good. For example, I'm actually in no shape to play that game, and sometimes it can feel very tender or very raw, and so it's not. Sometimes checking can mean feeling being reminded of the fact that you are feeling down, and therefore you will feel down. So this is a good mechanism, but maybe it doesn't work for everybody, because sometimes acknowledging the fact that you are tired will end up making you feel even more exhausted.
Yeah. Xates explains it was just a game demo, not a full playthrough, so it didn't seem relevant. Being there at all should have meant we wanted to do that. But why do I need to admit that I am having a bad day otherwise? And
Thank
I
you for
guess,
sharing.
yes, thank you very much. And should I say I am good to not feel bad? If all do, they might say, oh, then we will play the whole game, and I wasn't up for that. So maybe the problem is that these cards aren't quite specific enough, because what does an energy level of 4 or 1 even mean? Because maybe I have the energy to take on emotional labor, but maybe I don't have the energy for physical activity. Maybe I have the energy for. And all of these are very challenging questions, and maybe it needs a bit more context. So it's just to say, hey, do you think that I just want to check, does everyone have the energy for one more game? And allowing people to drop out. Um, Chris says, is it not possible that the cards could become two sets? I frequently find myself within a game, my energy or intensity changes. And if the idea is that it doesn't take up time during the game or ruin the flow, then I would feel bad re-establishing my boundaries.
Yeah,
So,
it could be useful to have the opportunity to flash the card as a prompt, instead of as an answer to demand. You just flash a card like a 2, saying, hey, my energy level has changed and I'm now in need of less intensity or less challenging game style. Maybe it could be useful to use them in that way.
and for sure, it feels like for a while I've been, although I really need to do a whole bunch of drawings. I'm sorry, Xate. Um, because I owe Xate a drawing, and before I start doing more talking, but I was thinking about doing like something every week or every 2 weeks, which is late at night, so I can talk to American people, and then it would be nice to maybe chat to go, but yeah.
Sorry, I'm stretching because
It's
I'm
all
in
good. You don't
pain.
need to apologize. Um,
Yes,
yeah,
but this is
to
not
chat to
very fit
Gilhova
for.
about how um, this has worked, and for sure, it feels like once it's within a certain group, I mean, okay, you are going to have house rules. I know that someone has a house rule in their group that um, they've got like a bone, like a literal dog bone, like a plastic squeaky toy. And if anyone during a game grabs it and then puts it onto the middle of the table from high up on the shelf, if they're not enjoying the game, and then anyone else can say, yep, we'll stop the game, or no, if no one else wants to stop the game, then the game will carry on. And if at least one person else wants to stop the game, then they don't even have to explain. So the point is that this dog bone isn't meant for big, oh my gosh, this thing is have giving me flashbacks of my time in the war. It's not meant to be like that level of intensity of problems, but it's like more like, hey, we aren't even enjoying this game. Frankly, if a couple of us aren't enjoying the game, why are we even playing it? And so this is not a step removed from safety. And I think that sometimes when people think about safety, they're like, hey, it's for people who just aren't enjoying it, and then they stop it and they ruin everyone else's fun. And what Gilhova's cards are making me wonder is whether there is any legitimate and formalized system that could work for every single game. And the more I think about it, the more I think, okay, the answer is probably no. Um, so we talked about the before setting boundaries. Anything else that we need to talk about regarding that as we try to wrap up?
No, I think we sum it up quite nicely already.
So mid game, the ability to have an X card, is that something that should be transposed into board games?
Well, it depends once again of the game, I believe. But maybe yes, an X card of could be useful. Could work on some time of game. Language is failing me
I
again.
mean, let's say, I guess it comes down to how much user generated content is there, because someone, I mean, the thing is, this could pop up in any game, even when you are not too familiar with it. Like any game where you might be surprised by the content. For example, how much money, where it says how much money would it take you to do a particular thing, or Top Tail, where it says share a personal story about X. And people have told me privately during both of these games, which we played on stream, hey, wait a minute, that thing that I am uncomfortable with that. And then we've carried on playing the game, but it's just been a case of, hey, Bez, that one topic, I don't want to talk about that. Okay, no problem. Well, we'll bring up another card. And that's why these days, again, it comes down to design. If in your card you only have one option and it's like, you need to read this one option, that might be a terrible design choice. Whereas if it's like, okay, there's two options or three options, like suddenly it's like, okay, we can check in with or I can at least check in with myself as the question master. And it also reinforces the fact that if I ask, hey, when was brushing with a recent brushing with the law that you had, and someone might not be at all comfortable chatting about that, they don't want to have these memories, and so it's at that point it's like, okay, you know what, we'll just draw another card. And maybe it needs a formal line in these kinds of rule books to say, reminder, if someone doesn't feel comfortable talking about any of these things, feel free to draw another card.
Yes, indeed. Sometimes you don't need full safety mechanism, as you said. Sometimes simply a little calibration like that might be enough. Like if a card is making you uncomfortable, ignore it. You can draw another card. The door is
Hmm.
always open. I think you're right. I think maybe sometimes big full-on safety mechanism might not be as fitting for a game situation.
And yeah, the final thing, so after the game, in role playing games, you have a lot of what's called debrief. For those who didn't watch our previous show, it's basically talking about what was their experience, do you have any lingering emotions, do you want to talk about anything? It occurs to me that I kind of do that anyway with board games. Like, frankly, I have had what I would call a debrief with someone where maybe um, yeah, I think so, yeah, where we were kind of like, okay, well, emotions ran high during this game, and you got annoyed at me. Do you want to chat about what's happened? And then we have a chat, just the two of us, even though it might have been like a 5 or 6 player game. And but even within the game afterwards, having a little bit of, okay, did you like that? What did you not like? And because the game isn't just in the playing of it, it's also about the memory of it. And so it strikes me that a debrief in that manner not only improves our emotional safety, but it can be a nice memory of the game to be just, hey, oh, when, okay, so that's how, and then you can get a sense of how people are feeling by what they bring up as you chat about the game for 5 minutes. It might be like, okay, um, I talk about how, oh, Sate, do you think I should have moved my big robot over to this place or to get those farming resources or getting one extra star? And then we have a chat about the strategy. Or maybe I might be like, oh, man, I was really shocked with that. But we check in with each other through that conversation. Do we need a formal. No, apparently I shouldn't move my mech over to get. Man, I feel like Sate's just giving me bad advice now, trying to bring me down before we play Scythe. Um, hey, Chris, you don't even play Scythe. Stop agreeing with Sate. Anyway, so in all seriousness, do we need to have a post-mortem for a board game?
I think we should. I agree with you. I have enjoyed thoroughly debriefing with people about game because sometimes it gave me opportunity to learn a little bit more, mostly about the mistake I made, but sometimes also about the level of intensity we display during the game, or the fact that some people were feeling a little bit out of it. So I think it's always useful to debrief together an experience. It doesn't have to be only when we are playing. That's my
Yes.
point of view.
I'm going to flash up Odin's thing. Would you like to read this
Yes.
or?
No, you should. You should.
There exists, I think, a dual responsibility. The group has a responsibility to maintain a level of safety agreed upon by the group, and each individual has a responsibility to keep themselves safe. That could be pretty rangy. Sometimes it's clear communication, sometimes it's taking a break, sometimes it may mean leaving a game, and anything in between. If that safety is the core principle of the group, and each member of the group, likely the members of the group will all feel safe. So what Odin's talking about is it's something that we all need to embody. We need to embody it. We need to have that responsibility to others and also the responsibility to ourselves.
Yes. But that's something we have talked about before when we chat about LARP safety.
Hmm.
We bring the fact that we always are in charge of our boundaries, that we are the ones that need to state them to the other player and or the organizer, and that this is not a magic fact when it's not magic when the organizer are offering to adjust a game to the player boundaries. We are in charge to saying, hey, I don't want to see this subject talk about, or I don't want to play on that. So I think Fong Odin has a very good point regarding that the fact that we are each of us responsible for our own safety. That means that we are the one who are in charge of consenting enthusiastically and equally say no and equally stating boundaries.
I'm just drawing a little diagram because you make some really good points and I want to remember it. We in the Facebook links where I posted, I'm just going to flag up lots of stuff. Some Callum, etc., says creating a game space where people don't feel embarrassed about telling people they feel uncomfortable is super important. So you need to be allowing people to speak up and not embarrassing them when they do speak up. We've got a lot of talks about role-playing games. Try to get to know who you're playing with. Don't try to change their mind if someone doesn't want to play something. Sometimes people would be hurt if they feel like any trauma they are carrying is badly impacting the group. Also, during the games, make sure to look out for one another and check in now and then. easier with a regular group, but with people you play with irregularly or have just met, you've got to work extra hard. That's from Michael Botteril. And yeah, there's nothing else that I'm going to read out there. We've got yes, someone talking about a moderator and the responsibilities. For sure, if you're playing a game like Werewolf or Mafia or what's that more recent game? That's Blood on the Clock Tower. You know, do these games, does the moderator have an additional responsibility compared to the other players? And I mean, what do you have an opinion? I've got an opinion on this. What?
I have asked myself that question, and I find it very difficult to answer. So please state your opinion, so I can maybe refine mine.
My opinion is that the moderator of such a game does have additional power, and so as such, they do have additional responsibilities. But ultimately, that should not divorce everyone else of their own personal responsibilities, because the moderator also has the privilege of being there for, they are trying to enjoy the game in their own role as well. And so I think it's important that the moderator is allowed to do that additionally. So I don't think the moderator of a game like Werewolf should be seen as the safety officer. I think that they should, if they see something like any decent human being, and I think all of this comes down to, if you see that people are upset, then, you know, check in with them, and that's what it all comes down to. But make sure they're okay, because it's easy. And yeah, what? But yeah, you don't want to say that they have to do all the work. It has to be everyone's responsibility.
Yes, I agree with you. Also, it's not because we have a moderator and safety mechanism mean that you can do whatever. That means that you have agreed to be part of a culture. That means you are part of a social contract now. So you can't do whatever because you are part of that magic of the pieces that hold the magic circle. So I agree with you.
I mean, we've got Senfung Glim, who suggested we talk about codes of conduct at conventions and stores. We really do not have time. We've already gone over time, but
Yes.
that feels like a separate show. There's, yeah, that's it for all the Facebook comments. We've got, yeah, I just wanted to share, like, in conclusion, so you've got other people. The other people are the arrows show who you are influencing, if you know what I mean. So the game influences yourself, the game influences other people and yourself. So this is the self, this is the individual. So I might affect others, I need to be mindful of that. Other people affect me, I need to be mindful of that. And also, to a smaller extent, maybe think about what's going on in this little bit, and what's going on here, and what's going on here. And so there is a lot to think about. And I guess what we're basically saying is, yeah, there's no whole thing that works for anyone. I'm going to recap, if that's fine with you.
Yes.
Okay, so we talked today about toilet paper, because toilet paper is brilliant. We talked about Hello Robot, about Nano Buckland Exercise, about King of Tokyo Dark Edition, about Butterfly P, which is like I still don't understand what's going on here. We talked about safety mechanisms, about being safe from each other, from the game content, from the dynamics of it, from what's going on between the rules and the players. There's a magic transference. Something changes and shifts. There is bleed in board games, whether it's coup or diplomacy, or for that matter, werewolf. Any game where you're lying to each other and where that is part of the game, then maybe we do need to have, okay, I'm actually telling you the truth at this point. I am now myself as a human, not as a player. And maybe we do need to have a, okay, this is actually me as a human thing. And I've got a thing where I say, okay, just to let you peeps know, from now on, anything I say, you shouldn't trust me. I might be telling the truth or I might be lying, and kind of announcing that, setting expectations. The game rules, how game and business models, they have such ramifications. We talked about Magic the Gathering and collectible card games in general, and putting money into things can make you almost over-invested, I'm going to say. About having a flexible player count that can allow the door to always be open. To set your expectations with the rules ahead of time. That mid-game, I guess it's just about keeping an eye out and being a decent human. But being a decent human, not everyone is capable of that, it seems. And post-mortem, sometimes it's good to check in, hey, how was that game for you? And just, okay, butterfly pea is a flower. And Chris says that it needs arrows going the other way, so some people can have an effect on the game. And that's true, but the reason that I didn't put arrows going this way is because it doesn't matter if they have an effect on the game, unless via the game they have an effect on you, if you know what I mean. Which, to be fair, they might. For example, if someone might be removing their own chances to win and saying, okay, I'm going to play just randomly. And so in theory, they're not affecting me directly, but I'm like, well, I don't feel like they want to be here or whatever. But it's more about how their actions are affecting me, because the game itself is an ephemeral thing. So maybe we could talk about how the rules affect other people. But yeah, there's all these interactions anyway. So there we go, rules. And postmortems do that. And moderators, yes, you're in a position of power. And when it gets into a game where you're playing at someone's house, if you're inviting other people into your house, you do have a bit of a responsibility. If you're teaching people a game, if you're being the host, you have a responsibility. If you're throwing a convention, absolutely, you have a responsibility. And I guess that is a completely different conversation. But do you have anything left to say for the recap or wrap up?
No, apart from take care and be kind.
And if anyone has any recap, wrap up, feel free to share, or it's going to be the looking forward to hopes and ambitions section next. So as we stop, I want to say thank you to everyone who's been watching along. Thank you to Xate, Alan, Alex, Odin, Brain Crack Test. Oh, I just saw another name pop in. I'm not going to call out lurkers, but Chris and Ion Cats and so many people who were here earlier. There was Jess and yeah. Oh, hello, CEO of Curls, apparently. Thank you for watching this. Oh, apparently I'm being graded. Wow, cool. Amazing. I'm going to scroll down. Oh, the obscure curio is raiding with a party of 9. Oh, thank you very much. You're just catching up as we recap. But what you do get to do is you are just in time for the looking forward to section, where you tell me what are you looking forward to doing today. And so we've given a thank you to everyone. I am stuffbybez.com, stuffbybez.bigcircle.com, twitter.com/stuffbez, instagram.com/stuffbez, twitch.tv/stuffbez, where I stream. Instagram is facebook.com/thingsbybez is a thing, and stuffbybez@gmail.com if you wish to email me. Now, warrior, what are you looking forward to? Hopes and ambitions, it's over to you for this final section. So what are you looking forward to after this stream? What are you looking forward to after you go out today, or tomorrow, or next week, or next month, or maybe after this whole pandemic is over? Tell me, what are you looking forward to? Or maybe have it in your own heart and share what you would like. Whoa. And CEO of Curls is looking forward to working on their YouTube channel. That sounds awesome, and I hope you have a great day with it. Xate is looking forward to those messages from Chris. That's a callback to when Chris was going to send Xate's topless photos. I am hoping to do two things today. Firstly, I'm going to do some design challenges and stuff for Ellie's games. Then I'm going to write some notes and possibly, do some work for Tabletop Gaming Live Talks. And I'm also hoping to listen to some audio and that I need to listen to, otherwise it'll go away and be way too late, and maybe do some exercise. And Chris is looking forward to sending those messages. Odin has got to get the Kickstarter project page for Garbled submitted for approval. Alan is going to start an ASMR YouTube channel. And what are you looking forward to, LolV?
I'm looking forward to seeing my aunt and my cat on Friday.
Oh,
and
that sounds
also,
lovely.
I asked my girlfriend if she's willing to bring back some tech to my home so we can play Magic the Gathering, because talking about it so much made me want to play it once again. And yes, I miss my cat so much.
Oh, yeah, cat love for sure.
Meow.
And hello, Joron. And same to you. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And thank you very much again. Most of all, most importantly, I want to say thank you to LolV for joining me on this stream. Let me try and get up the spark. Let's see, Instagram.com/specifically sparkly is
There
the
is
place.
nothing new this day on specifically Sparkly, because I'm working on a big project for the Knutpunkt, the convention in Norway this year. So since I'm working on that, I didn't draw anything new for a little bit of time, but I'm going to be back with some drawing after that.
But there's plenty of old drawings of hands, and if anyone wants to check that out, I will put that into the comments. And after I sing the bye-bye song, now that Sate has shown me how to do a raid, after the bye-bye song, I'm going to suggest that everyone joins the raid to go to Zano Wano, who is a violinist, and they make really cool music. So we can check them out afterwards if I get my tags correct. So stick around for that. And for now, there's only one thing left to do, which is, I've almost forgot this thing. Share, spread the word. Look at stuffbybez.com/streams. .com/streams, and if you go there, it will redirect you to my Google Calendar where it says tomorrow social media marketing, then inventing games, then love and business on that's Saturday. And we're talking about all sorts of things. I'm very excited about this one, legality and ethics of online gaming. But thank you very much. The only thing left to do is to say bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye bye, bye bye. This is the end of the show. Bye bye, bye bye. And now it's time to go. Bye bye, bye bye. This is the goodbye song. Bye bye, bye bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye bye, bye bye. This is the end of the show. Bye bye, bye bye. And now it's time to go. Bye bye, everybody.